Hello students, I hope you all are fine and healthy. In the last video, we have completed our last topic of the chapter number 4, that was isobars. So today we are going to start our revision. So first of all, we will revise the chapter number first with the help of some questions. So our first question is, what is matter? So we know that anything which occupies space and it have a mass, that is called a matter, like the table, chair, fan, glass, iron, wood, all are matter. We ourselves are also matter because we occupy space and we have a mass. Now question number second is, what are the characteristics of the particles of matter? Now the characteristics of particles of matter are, particles of matter are very small, and the particles of matter have spaces between them. Particles of matter attract each other, and the particles of matter are constantly moving. So these four are the characteristics of the particles of matter. Now our third question, what is diffusion? Diffusion means the mixing of two or more substances due to the motion of their particles. Whenever two or more substances mix together by their own due to the motion of their particles, it is known as the diffusion. Like when we use a perfume, so the fragrance of the perfume spreads in the whole room due to the diffusion, because the particles of the perfume, they gets diffused with the air that is present in the room, and when those particles reaches our nose, then we can smell the fragrance of the perfume. Now our next question is, why do gases diffuse very fast? We know that the force of attraction between the particles of gases is very less, or we can say the force of attraction is minimum between the particles of gases. Now due to the less force of attraction, the particles of gases are far away from each other, and the particles of gases keeps moving constantly with a high speed. So due to a large space between the particles and due to the motion of particles with the high speed, the gases mix each other with the very easily, or we can say they gets diffused very fast. Now our next question is, give two reasons for saying that wood is a solid. Now we know that the properties of a solid are, solids have a fixed shape, they have a fixed volume, solids cannot be compressed, they have the high density, and they do not fill their container completely. Now as we can see in the case of wood, it is having a fixed shape, it is also having a fixed volume, and the density of the wood is also very high. So we can say that the wood is a solid. Now our next question is, why are gases so easily compressible, whereas it is almost impossible to compress a solid or a liquid? Now in the case of a solid, the particles are very closely packed and they are having minimum space between them, so they can't be compressed, whereas the liquids have some space between them, but still the particles are very close, so the liquids can't be compressed. But whereas the gases, they are having a large space between their particles, so due to the large space between their particles, the gases can be compressed easily. Now our next question is, what is Brownian motion? Brownian motion means the zigzag motion of the particles that are suspended in any other substance. Brownian motion means the zigzag motion of the particles of a substance that is suspended in a liquid or a gas. Like when the sunlight enters a room through a window, So we can easily see the dust particles moving in a haphazard manner, or we can say in a zigzag way. So that is an example of the Brownian motion. Now our next question is, why gases neither have fixed shape nor volume? So in the case of gases, the force of attraction is very low, or we can say very less, and the particles are far away from each other. So that's why the gases don't have a fixed shape nor a fixed volume. So our next question is, what happens to the particles when salt dissolves in water? So when we dissolve the salt in water, first of all, the particles of salt starts breaking from its crystals. Now then these particles goes between the space that is available between the particles of water. So there is space between the particles of water, that is a liquid. We know that particles of liquid is having spaces between them. So the particles of salt starts breaking from the crystals, and then these particles occupy the space that is available between the particles of water. And when we dissolve the salt in water, there is no change in the volume of water. It is because the particles of salt, they goes between the particles of water. That's why there is no change in volume. Now our next question is, name the three states of matter. So the three states of matter, they are solid, liquid and gases. Now the example of solids is a fan, table, chair, whereas examples of liquid is water, kerosene, petrol, diesel. They all are liquid states of matter, whereas gases are hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. Now if we classify the matter on the basis of its chemical properties, then again it can be classified into three types, that are elements, compounds and mixtures. Now our next question is, what does the diffusion of gases tells us about their particles? The diffusion of gases tells us that the particles of gases, they are constantly moving, and there is very less force of attraction between the particles. Now our next question is, explain why a small volume of water in a kettle can fill a kitchen with steam. So we know that water is the liquid form and steam is the gas form of water. So we know that the gases, they have very less force of attraction between the particles, and their particles can move freely, and the gases fills their container completely. Now when the water will convert into steam, so it will start coming out of the kettle, and slowly that water vapors, or we can say the steam, it will start filling up in the room, and slowly the whole room will be completely filled with the steam. So that is the property of gases, that they occupy, or we can say they fills the whole container. Now our next question is, explain why we can easily move our hand in air, but to do the same through the plank of wood, we need a karate expert. Now as we know that air is the gas form of matter, so the gases have very less force of attraction between them, and there is a large space between them. So due to the less force of attraction between the particles of air, we can easily move our hand. Whereas the wood, it is a solid, and the particles of solid, they are very closely packed, and the force of attraction is very high. That's why we can't pass our hand from the wooden plank. So that's why we need a karate expert for that. Now our next question is, compare the properties of solids, liquids and gases. So for that, first of all, we will make a table with 3 columns, that is solids, liquids and gases. Now, first of all, now we know that the solids are having a fixed shape and they have a fixed volume. So first is solids have fixed shape and fixed volume. Now if we talk about the liquids are having a fixed volume but their shape is not fixed. So they have a fixed volume but no fixed shape. No fixed shape. Now if we talk about the gases, so gases neither have a fixed shape nor have a fixed volume. They don't have no fixed shape nor fixed volume. Fixed volume. Now the solids cannot be compressed. Solids can't be compressed. Now like the solids, the liquids also cannot be compressed because their particles are also very close. So they can't be compressed. Now if we talk about the gases, we can easily compress the gas. Like our LPG cylinder, it compressed the petroleum gas in the compressed form. So the gases can be easily compressed. Easily compressed. Now the solids have very high density, means their mass will be very high. Now the solids are having high density, it means they are very heavy. So the solids have high densities. Now if we talk about the liquids, so their density is moderate to low. Now if we talk about the liquids are having high density to moderate density, means their density can be more also or less also. So they have high to moderate density. Moderate density. Now the gases, they are having very low density, so they are very light in weight. They have very less densities. Now the solids, they do not fill their container completely. Like if we will keep a solid in another container, now the next property is the solids do not fill their container completely. Like if we will take 1 kg sugar and we will keep it in a container whose capacity is of 2 kg. So that 1 kg sugar will not fill the container completely. So we don't fill container completely. Now if we talk about the liquids also don't fill their containers completely. Similarly, if we will take 1 liter of water and we will keep it in a mug whose capacity is of 2 liters, so the mug will not get filled completely. So they also don't fill the container completely. Not fill container completely. Now if we talk about the gases, they fill their container completely. Like even if we will take a very small amount of gas and we will release it in the room, so that gas will occupy all the space that is available in the room. So the gases fill their container completely. Fill container completely. Now the solids do not flow. Solids do not flow, or we can say they are the rigid form of matter. Rigid means that cannot flow, whereas the liquids and the gases, they can easily flow. That's why they are also known as the fluid form of matter. So they can easily flow. Now the gases can easily flow. So these are the properties of the solids, liquids and gases. So that's it, students. We will revise the next part of the chapter in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Take care.